Hey guys, today we will be talking about Speaking from the Shadows by David Barringer. And I have to say, I enjoyed this read. I got more out of it than what I was expecting to. And before I dive in, I just want to give a little background. So this is Pastor Dave's journey through depression. So he's sharing his journey going from a place of emotional darkness, mental darkness, to a place of greater mental health. And one thing I really love about this book is its holistic perspective. Too often our culture wants to just give quick fixes, give a quick prescription, give a quick checklist of how to get out of something. And this book really takes you through the whole journey. He shares about physical health, about relationships, about his own thought patterns and thought processes, and really lets you see and feel what it felt like for him and what things helped him to come to a place of greater mental health. So the book's not purely chronological, but each chapter kind of takes a different aspect of the journey and helps you delve into what it was like and what helped get to a place of better mental health. And one thing that I really love is at the end of each chapter, he just has this little extra piece of advice. So I wanted to share just a brief example. So he calls these survival tips for the shadows. So this example, he's having you take a negative statement and replace it with a truthful statement. So it's really focusing on thought processes and what's going on in your mind. So for example, if you had a negative statement, I am unnoticed and lonely, that could be replaced with a truthful statement, I am loved and cared for by God. And so I just love these little tips. They're very simple, they're manageable. It's just one small task to do that can help you get to that better place of mental health. But I really like this one in particular. I connected to it personally because I actually used to do something kind of similar to this. I was at a point in my life where I was just kind of struggling with my own thought patterns about like if I was good enough, if I was doing a good job. I realized that I was wearing myself out by just constantly trying to improve. So I made myself at night have a notebook and I would write down 3 things that I did well that day. And it could be anything. I could just write like, I made a nice meal for dinner, or I prayed with my kids before bed, or even things that I did every day, but I also did it on that day. And it just made me force my mind to think about something to be thankful for and something that was good, instead of fixating only on the negative things and what needed to be improved or what needed to be fixed. So I do love this idea of replacing your thoughts, replacing a thought that's negative and getting you into a bad pattern and changing it into something that's truthful. It was meaningful to me and helped me to come out of that negative thought pattern. So I think it's just really a good principle. And there were so many things in this book that I thought like, wow, it's just really a good life principle. It's just a good life habit for anybody. And of course, it's relevant to those who are struggling with depression, but it's kind of like physical health. Like when you're talking about how someone can get healthy, have a good physically fit lifestyle, a lot of the advice is going to be useful for everyone, right? Sleeping well, eating vegetables, getting up and moving and exercising. Like these are things that benefit everyone, not just those who are maybe struggling with their physical health. So the same can be true with a lot of these aspects of mental health. So I felt really connected to a lot of the ideas in this book. Even though depression isn't something I've personally experienced, I can see how these tips are manageable, how they're simple things to do, but how they can be really helpful and impactful in somebody's life, and how they're really just good life tips, good ways to live your life and have a healthy lifestyle. One of the chapters I enjoyed reading from this book was about triggers, and I liked it for 2 reasons. One was just for the content. I love that he shared that triggers don't always have to be bad, and that he shared that you don't always have to avoid triggers, but you can really do that meaningful work of working through it. I think we live in a culture where when you say triggers, people just want to avoid it and run away at all costs, and he really talks about a better way of going through that and navigating triggers and dealing with that. But what I really loved personally was just a moment of nostalgia for me. So I actually used to work for Pastor Dave, and in this chapter he shares a story about walking down the hallway to his boss's office, and I was able to just picture that hallway and picture what it felt like walking down, because I have walked that same hallway for myself. So it just brought those memories back, and I really just enjoyed being back in that place and experiencing that again, and just being able to really vividly picture the story in my mind. So that was an enjoyable chapter for me. Another thing I really enjoyed that he talks about in the book is this idea of authentic relationships. So he doesn't just take this short approach of like, just tell people what's going on, but really goes into doing it in a meaningful way, not just being open and being expressive and being vulnerable with anybody, but being intentional and mindful and really developing meaningful relationships. The idea of authentic friendships just came up over and over again throughout the book. And here's one quote that he shares. When you get healthy community around you and you vocalize what you are dealing with to them, you are essentially speaking "let there be light" into your shadows. You are inviting healthy people from the layers of your life into the world you live in. These layers of individuals can be a powerful tool in watching, encouraging, strengthening, and empowering you to live a joy-filled life. So I loved how often this theme came up, this theme of authentic relationship, meaningful conversations, and really emphasized the impact and the power that the healthy community can have to help bring someone out of darkness. So some of you might be thinking, like, what does this have to do with any of the other things that you've been talking about? And in some ways, it doesn't have everything to do with it, but in some ways, it has so much to do with what we've been talking about. And the important theme is really just this idea of truth. And here we see this journey through darkness, through struggle, and taking those lies that come into the mind and combating them with the truth, right? The way to fight the darkness, to fight the lies, is to combat it with the truth. And we see this link. There's an inextricable link between truth and freedom. And in the process of finding freedom, it required a foundation of truth. And the same thing is true no matter what context you're in. If you're talking about relationships, about the workplace, about your home, about family, about America as a nation, it doesn't matter what context you're talking about. If you are combating lies, if you are combating evil, you fight back against it with the truth. And we can't underestimate how powerful the truth is and how meaningful the truth is and how important it is not to cower down, not to back away, not to think that, because of what someone else says or what someone else thinks, that I shouldn't say this or shouldn't think it or shouldn't believe it. George Washington once said, "The truth will ultimately prevail where there is pains to bring it to light." And the truth sometimes can be painful. It might not be what you want to hear, or it might not be what you want to say, or it might not be well received. But if you put the effort in to changing your thought patterns, to thinking the truth, if you put the effort into combating the lies of our culture with the truth, it is valuable and meaningful because the truth has power. So thank you, Pastor Dave, for writing this book, for sharing your heart and sharing your own life experience and just being vulnerable to those around you. It's very impactful and meaningful. And just thank you also for your own ministry. When I was a youth, I remember those times vividly. I have so many great experiences from being in your youth ministry when you were my youth pastor. So thank you so much for how you've impacted my life personally and for the work that you're doing to impact so many more people. With that said, I hope that you will consider reading Speaking from the Shadows. It's an impactful book, and if you are going through depression yourself, if you know somebody who is, it's very insightful and helps you understand the journey and the process of going through depression and going through that healing process. Thanks for listening, and remember to live in truth.